changing this theory. Okay, we lose our jobs otherwise. And also, politicians use astrology. So they said, no. If you're correct about this theory, then that means that what was the reason people are following me is wrong. So can't do that either. Sorry. Okay, so you see the problems here? Society was very much opposed to it. Okay, for what? Usually pragmatic reasons, practical reasons, material wealth, political power, etc., etc. Okay, maybe pride, right? Now Thomas Kuhn says is that there's a dogmatism in science. So this dogma occurs between scientists, so they don't want to accept anything yet. So usually what happens is that these scientists usually die off, the ones with all the prestige and the power, and then a new group of scientists come in, some younger ones, and they go, you know what? We don't have much to lose, so let's try this out. Let's try it. Let's see how it works. Okay? And eventually it becomes popular because it's easier to fix the mathematical problems or dealing with the eclipses and such and such. So what eventually happens, Copernicus' system was adopted. And Thomas Kuhn calls this, what? A paradigm shift. Have you heard of the paradigm shift? This is what happens. In his book, The Structure of Scientific Revolutions, okay, every few generations, a paradigm shift occurs because a certain theory will be very successful at doing what it's supposed to do. It makes good predictions, it works, okay, but then it starts to run into problems. The more data, the more information that gets collected into the theory, the more the theory becomes unstable. Oh, there's something that's wrong. You know, it's becoming a little bit unbalanced. So then what the scientists will do is, okay, well, let's see, maybe we can change it a little bit. So let's add this, let's add that. And then the more they keep doing it and accommodating for all the new information, it gets more unstable. They find more anomalies, and it gets heavier, heavier, and heavier. And then one day, somebody goes, okay, this is getting ridiculous. All right, so we need to change something. Something is wrong with the theory. Okay? And so they change it to something else that's able to solve those problems. And then you have a paradigm shift. So, is science absolute fact? No. But there are ounces of fact within science. There is such thing as scientific fact. There is. Okay? But when it comes to understanding those facts, what we have to understand is that science is not about what we see necessarily, it's how we interpret what we see. And it's based on theory selection. The reason, for instance, that evolutionary theory exists is to account for the diverse nature of species on the planet. Okay? Now here's where I'm going to get controversial. I'm going to be very open with you. Okay? So please do not get up and try to kill me. All right? I am a fervent believer in evolutionary biology. All right? Now, this does not mean that I believe men came from apes. Okay, that's far from it. All right? This does not mean that I believe that Adam came from some distant ancestor or something. Okay, I don't believe that. All right? This is called what some people call macroevolution. Okay? This is a concept of the origin of or the sort of the hierarchical tree of certain species. Okay. However, biology itself, the study of biology, if any of you are biology majors in here, you're actually probably learning evolution every day, even if they don't talk about it in your biological textbooks. Okay, and the reason why is this, is because evolution is about two things: adaptation and mutation. That's it. For instance, I'll give you a very simple example of evolution right now. You get sick. Who's been sick in the past week or two? Anybody here? You don't have to tell me, but I mean, who's been sick last year? Everyone's been sick last year? At least once? Okay. Your body, your white blood cells, they became immune eventually to that illness, right? They evolved. That's it. They didn't become a cat or anything, but you know, like they didn't become another animal, but they adapted.
It's a guided process.
Yeah, but now we'll get into natural selection later. I agree with you that it's a guided process. But what I mean to say is that evolution is just that. So for instance, if I go into a hot climate and I'm under the sun for a while, okay, and I become tan, right, what happens? My skin color changes, right?
Pigmentation.
Pigmentation, right, different, right? But why does it change color?
Pigmentation.
Okay, but I mean, your skin does it for a purpose. Okay, right? Right, so it protects you. You've just evolved. That's it. That's really all it is. That's evolution in a nutshell. I mean, when you start talking about species changing, then you get at the genetic level. You start saying, okay, things are these two species, they can't mate anymore. So they're two different species. Okay, they can't, their genetic information is too different. Okay? So this concept, the evolution that I'm sort of talking to you about, is actually, in some ways, well, first off, we'll get into the Quran in a moment, maybe in a later session. But do I have still some time? Thank you. But what I want to say is that the Quran does not speak against or for evolution. Okay? That's it. It doesn't. It does say something very interesting. It says that we all came from water. So it all says that we came from common material, which makes a lot of sense if you think about it, because actually we share 98% genetic material with apes. Does it mean that they were related? No, but we share the same materials. Actually, we also share a lot of material with dolphins and other things, but it's a different story. If you looked at a baby fetus before it forms, you notice it has a tail?
Yes.
Yes? Yeah? Do you notice what happens when a frog is formed? Also has a tail. A lot of mammals, they have tails before, even when they're grown full, they don't have tails. They have tails when they're babies. They're little fetus. Why? Maybe it's because we're made up of the same genetic material. That's it. It's not much. There's not much. I mean, there's nothing controversial about that at all. So when I speak about evolution, I'm not talking about that we are cousins with apes or that I'm not talking about that aspect. I'm talking about the basic foundation of modern biology. That's all I'm talking about. Okay? So when we go against evolutionary theory, we really need to understand what it's trying to say. A lot of people even say, like I said, that humans come from apes. In actuality, the scientists who claim our relation with apes say that we're cousins. But we're not, like we don't come from them. They're like a different tree over here. We came from something else. That's what they say. So we have no relation beyond that. Like, you know, we didn't just one day pop up as an ape and go, okay, here we are. No, that didn't happen. It's just that because apes are so similar to us, they assume that we must have had a similar ancestor. That's all they're saying. But it's not proven. It's just an assumption on their part. But most of evolutionary theory has nothing to do with that. People assume that it does, but it doesn't. So,
Is it theory or is it a hypothesis?
Evolution is a theory. It's an interpretive lens, how we study biology. So without evolutionary theory, we would not have modern antibiotics. We would have not modern vaccines. Modern medicine is based on most of evolutionary theory, actually. So except for surgery and things like that. But you know what I'm talking about. Modern medicine is based a lot on evolutionary theory. The way our bodies adapt to things, to diseases, et cetera, et cetera. There's a recent, they found the cure for AIDS, by the way. Anybody, I'm not kidding when I say this. But they found a cure for AIDS by doing a stem cell transplant. Stem cell transplant. Taking out the bone marrow. Replacing your cells with somebody else's. And since the AIDS virus had adapted to your cells, it can't see the other person's cells. So it dies. So they tried this on one man recently. If you look it up, there's an HIV patient. They tried a stem cell transplant on him. Now he's cured. He has no AIDS virus in him at all. None. It died. It starved itself to death, basically. They've also started to use modified AIDS or HIV viruses. They modify them to attack cancer cells. Instead of white blood cells, they attack cancer cells. So they're actually injecting people with HIV now to cure them of cancer. Isn't that crazy?
So, when did you came to know about this?
I read Scientific America and Nature and things like this. Can't find anything? Okay, check HIV patient stem cell transplant. And check HIV and cancer. But yes, there are recent reports of that. I think it occurred 2 years ago.